After a very close encounter with the Empire, Han Solo and Chewbacca sat in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, watching the blue streaks of hyperspace come to a fade as the gas giant planet known as Bespin came into view. Solo turned to call out to his passengers, the Organas, of their arrival. "We're here. Get ready to land, you two." Solo returned to his consoles and brought the ship down to orbit. The captain of the Falcon glanced over his console, reaching over to the indicator to signal the Cloud City for a request to land as the freighter came closer to the location. Not soon after did 3 odd aircraft come barreling towards the Falcon. One craft lurched just in front of Solo's ship, and his radar showed the latter 2 coming up behind. "What in the blazes is happening now?" Solo questioned as Chewbacca roared in uneasy sentiment. Luke and Leia soon rushed to the cockpit to see what was happening and could sense the tension building within Captain Solo. "What's going on? I thought you said this Calrissian guy was a friend," Luke questioned as he watched Solo fumble with the communicator. "Okay, listen, I said he was a friend, so don't go thinking I lied about that. Just left out the fact that it's been a while since we've seen each other, that's all." "And how long is a while?" Leia chimed in with an air of annoyance that was impossible to ignore in her tone. "Well, if you must ask, a couple years, at most. And he wasn't too happy about losing the ship to me either." "What?" Both Organa children did nothing to hold back their shock to Solo's admission as the smuggler raised communication with the lead pilot of this new, unexpected escort. "This is Captain Solo of the Millennium Falcon. Look, it looks like there's been a little misunderstanding. We're not looking for any kind of conflict. We're here to speak with Lando Calrissian." Solo glanced back at the Organas, both of whom still had their jaws hanging as he just shot a grin at the pair.
"Captain Solo, you are to land at landing pad S-16.
"See, we're all fine." Solo readjusted himself as he saw this small moment as an even smaller victory before the pilot continued with instructions.
If you veer off our escort at any time, we will open fire. Proceed."
"Yeah, of course you will," Solo muttered as he and Chewbacca guided the Falcon with their new escort. The true scope of Cloud City began to come into view, and Luke and Leia were taken back by the beauty of it all. A city that finds itself in the clouds, almost like a city from the tales they were told as children by their mother. "You two better get going. The landing pad's coming up," Solo suggested as the Falcon began its landing process. The ship jolted as it made contact with pad S-16. A hissing sound followed as the entrance ramp slowly lowered to the ground and everyone exited. Across from them stood a small contingency of guards, draped in uniforms that looked as blue as the rivers that once flowed on Alderaan, and had golden accents gleaming from their jackets. But something no one could miss was the K-23 blasters they all had trained on them. "Okay, I see we haven't resolved that little misunderstanding, have we?" Solo eased himself forward with hands in the air as he continued to seek an audience with an old friend. "We're just here to speak with Lando Calrissian, and then we'll be out of here." The guards didn't waver as their blasters now found all their sights on Solo alone. Chewbacca let out a roar as Luke and Leia both lowered their hands to their waists respectively, resting on the hilt of their lightsabers. The hissing sound of a door behind the guards made them snap back into a neutral position as a familiar voice to Solo echoed out. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! I said just scare the old devil a bit, not threaten to blast his head off." The line of guards broke into two as the source of the voice came striding down the walkway, with a blue cape flowing in the Bespin wind. Solo knew only one man to have such a poor taste in dressing. "Lando! This was all your idea?" Solo called out as he lowered his hands finally. "What can I say? You had it coming with how long it took you to come see me." Lando immediately came in for a hug that caught Han Solo off guard. The shocked look on his face was contagious, as now Luke and Leia both shared it. "How you been, you old pirate? It's so good to see you!" Solo brought himself back to some level of composure as he responded. "And I see you've done pretty good for yourself. Your name is being tossed around every cantina from Tatooine to Nar Shaddaa." "Good. No one would think me to do something real like this for a change. But sometimes you have to leave the smuggling behind." Lando smirked as if he knew something about Han already, which the captain of the Falcon easily picked up on. "So, you heard about the whole thing with the Empire, huh?" After that incident at those shipyards, the rebellion had footage of it running non-stop on the holonet. You couldn't miss my ship flying around on there if you tried. "Okay, your ship?" Solo's eyes bugged open as Lando's laugh drowned out a follow-up response from the smuggler. Luke and Leia walked up behind the pair's little reunion, as if to remind Solo of why they were here. "Right. Lando, this is Luke and Leia Organa. They're here too." Solo was cut off by Lando as the man seemingly floated over to Leia. "Hello, what have we here? Organa, you say? I'm terribly sorry about what happened to your people. If you're looking for a new home, Cloud City would be more than happy to welcome you." Lando reached to kiss Leia's hand, but the young Jedi pulled back, seeing through his horrible attempt at flirting. "Not quite while we're here, Mr. Calrissian. We're visiting on behalf of the rebellion." The senatorial experience of Leia was on full display as she respectfully declined Calrissian's advances. The administrator of Cloud City could sense the urgency buried within the statement and signaled for the newly arrived visitors to follow him. While the young Jedi sought assistance against the Empire, Grand Moff Tarkin sat waiting to hear back from the bounty hunter Boba Fett in his search for the Emperor's desired prey. It felt like a dozen cycles had already gone by, with technician after technician reporting to him with false sightings across a number of Outer Rim territories. So much so that Tarkin issued a warning. "Bring him another lead without thorough investigation, and you'll be sent to that world to do so, alone." The flood of unnecessary information came to a halt after that, but now Tarkin began to feel uneasy amongst the silence. Grand Moff soon approached another technician, whose attempts to avoid eye contact were more clear than anything else in this galaxy. "We've received word from the bounty hunter. He's tracked the targets to the world of Bespin, sir." Tarkin's head snapped back as he pressed for more than preliminary information. "And what more do you have to report, Private?" barked the Grand Moff. "They've met a man named Lando Calrissian. He's reported to be the primary official of a mining colony known as Cloud City." Tarkin paused for a moment as he seemed to ponder over the next steps of action. "Inform the bounty hunter that his services are no longer required in the matter, and send him a payment for his work as well." Tarkin then turned to establish contact with Admiral Ozzel, who was patrolling the sector in which Bespin was located. "Admiral Ozzel, your services are requested for the most important task. The young Jedi our Emperor seeks have found themselves within your reach. Mobilize your cruiser for the planet in question, and bring our dear friends to justice." "At once, Moff Tarkin." The Admiral nodded as the image of the Grand Moff faded from in front of him. Fleet Admiral Kendall Ozzel enjoyed a quite steady Imperial career, yet he saw the moment before him as the perfect chance to jump shot what he saw as an increasingly stagnant run. "Prepare the flight vectors," shouted Ozzel as he approached the viewport of his Star Destroyer. "Jump on my mark." The underlying sound of the engines preparing to launch grew and grew along with the pride of the Fleet Admiral, as he considered this to be his moment. He nodded as his fists clenched and the blue lights of hyperspace travel filled his viewport. Silence fell among the bridge, save for the ever-often clamping of Imperial Navy officers' boots running from one display to the other. One of those officers soon approached Ozzel with troubling news. Sir, our vector currently has us on mark to end our jump too close to the system. They'll surely be alerted of our presence. Ozzel didn't seek to bring the officer to his side, attempting to mask his nervousness at such a rookie mistake. Instead, he offered a sentiment he hoped to be conveyed as a sense of encouragement to the other officers. Let them be alerted. It will only show them that they cannot escape the inevitable might of the Empire. While the Admiral pondered how to rectify his mistake and all the time he had left, Luke and Leia had already begun deliberating with Lando about how he could help the rebellion and their efforts. We know that the Empire is in great need of Sabana gas. It's what fuels their greatest war engines, Star Destroyers. Leia's natural-born skills as a diplomat shone through as she pressed the issue further. And quite frankly, it's something we need as well. The Mon Cala have supplied a great number of their ships to be outfitted for the war, and we are severely stretched on fuel. Lando rose from his seat as he saw where the Jedi's line of thought was headed. And what you need is for Bespin to be a supply line for the rebellion. Need I remind you there's still a planet killer out there, and the Empire's itching to use it. Luke rose from his seat to let his voice be heard. The Death Star, we know. That's why we need a line of fuel. The other leaders are ready to take it out. Slow down there, Prince. I have a lot of people to look out for, and if the Empire finds out we're aiding the rebels, they won't have time once we gather the strength to attack it first. Leia's confidence only amplified her words as Lando considered the options before him, though he was stopped when an aide came to him with troubling news. Well, Princess, it seems like they found out already. There's a Star Destroyer in the system, and it's not just here to visit. Lando turned to the aide with an order. Sound the evacuation alarm, and get all civilian personnel to the transports. Have the wing guard stationed along all the routes as planned. As the aide nodded and exited, Captain Solo noted his surprise that Lando seems to be more than prepared for something like this. You know better than anyone had. It's hard to escape the Empire. I figured it's best to be ready. Let's get you to your ship. But what about the aid we requested? The Sabana gas? Leia pressed hard for an answer as Lando marched out of the room. There's not about to be any gas. The Empire will see to that. Not long after the group left the room where they conversed, the evac alarm rang out across all of Cloud City. Its citizens sprang into action as they all made way to the ships that would get them away from the Empire's might. Lando saw to it to take the Jedi and their smuggler back to the ship that brought them here. But the hissing sound of a TIE fighter began to fill the air, and soon an explosion was heard over the city. Calrissian ran to a viewport to see the debris of an evac ship tumbling beneath the clouds that sprawled across the gas giant planet. Carabas, we weren't fast enough. Halt the evacuation now! The skies aren't safe! The urgency of the situation brought out a new personality in Lando, one Han hadn't seen before, as he questioned if coming here was the right choice. They were putting a lot of innocent lives in harm's way, and this felt like it was turning into one of the grandest of failures. Admiral Ozzel, however, felt like this was becoming a huge success. The blunder of coming out of hyperspace too close to the system didn't yield any consequences. Bespin's inhabitants didn't have an army. Their most advanced fighter couldn't even be flown in orbit. He barked an order as he marched towards the exit of his bridge. Prepare my light cruiser for launch and enforce a lockdown on Cloud City. No ships are to leave until we have the Jedi in our possession. With his newfound sense of control of the situation, Ozzel felt he had complete power over the fate of all who occupied the city as the standoff on Bespin began to take shape.